conspiracy
schedule here?
theorist, so I don't know.
Today's the 20th, right?
That's what I
Chambers and
wondered.
mayor. Oh, that's
what I'm
me.
wondering. It was with 16 acres of property.
You up for the?
Sure. You bet.
Thank you.
Oh, that's okay. There's nothing. I don't know. We're not talking anything. It's not. Sometimes we forget that. So I'm just sorry. Thank you.
It's your superpower hearing.
Yeah. So anyway, that's just, it's just curious.
Hey, Dave. Good. How are you? Good. What time is it? 6:30.
My kids.
All right, welcome everyone. It's 6:30. Let's get this show on the road. This is the City Council meeting for March 20th, 2024, Rexburg City Council. Welcome to all of you that are here, citizens. We appreciate your attendance here and your interest in our local government affairs. We'd like to start this meeting this evening with a prayer and a pledge to the flag, and I've asked Councilmember Chambers to offer an opening prayer for us, after which I will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So.
Thank you. Heavenly Father, we're grateful for our many blessings. We're especially grateful that we can be assembled here tonight in this Rexburg City Council meeting. We're grateful, Father, for the opportunity given us as citizens to participate in the governance of our communities. And we pray that we may be granted thy wisdom and that we may show respect one to another. We pray that we may be blessed in our capacity to decide the issues with wisdom and with compassion for all. We express our love to thee for our Savior and his atoning sacrifice and his resurrection. And at this particular time of year, we pray that we may remember him and strive to emulate his life. We express our love and our thanks and ask for thy spirit and blessing. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen. Thank you. Right, would you please stand and repeat after me the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you very much. We appreciate that. Let's go ahead with our roll call of council members, please. Mariana.
Yes. Councilmember Johnson. Here. Councilmember Chambers.
Here.
Councilmember C. Erickson.
Here.
Councilmember E. Erickson.
Here.
Councilmember Reeser.
Here.
Council President Walker.
Here.
All right, thank you. We have a full board tonight, so we will carry on with no excuses. All right. First of all, on the agenda, we have our presentation from our Cultural Arts Director, Jed Platt, on the new Tabernacle documentary. So let's go ahead with that at this time.
Thank you, Mayor Merrill and council members. Thank you for supporting our community arts programming and historic venues. As you may be aware, the city has had stewardship of the historic tabernacle for nearly 50 years. And as we are commencing our Tabernacle Legacy campaign to preserve the beauty of the building, we also wanted to help preserve its story. And so we received a grant last year from the Idaho Humanities Council to produce a short film to work with the Soapbox Agency, a group of students on campus. We have our director here tonight, Bryson Bigler, and Alicia Tejan, our museum curator, who helped so much with this film. I think we're ready to show it. If we get out a little bit earlier than normal, I also want to invite you tonight. There is a performance at the Tabernacle. It's our Heritage Youth Symphony, a program that we support, and the Madison High Choirs, and that starts at 7. So if you want to poke your head in, I think you'd really enjoy what they're presenting.
Hopefully we can catch the last half of it, yeah.
I think the windows are open there too, so you could. Patrick, do you have that?
Tabernacles are part of a large tradition in the 19th century. So they're being built all over the United States. When you are a new settlement out in the West, just getting started, you need three things to be a community. You need a school, a place to learn, you need a post office or a city hall, and you need a church. They're meant to be places of gathering.
The tabernacle was built by the members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints so that
Tabernacles are part of a large tradition in the 19th century. So they're being built all over the United States. When you are a new settlement out in the West, just getting started, you need three things to be a community. You need a school, a place to learn, you need a post office or a city hall, and you need a church. They're meant to be places of gathering.
the tabernacle was built by the members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints so that they would have a place to gather together for conferences. They needed a place that they could be all together to be able to hear from their leaders. And so that's why the tabernacle was constructed, was for that purpose.
Anything that your community wants can happen in a tabernacle. It's church on Sunday, but it might be bingo on a Friday night,
Socials and graduations.
a dance recital, or a funeral, or a devotional. They are designed to hold your town.
When they were building tabernacles at the time, the church would help pay for a lot of the tabernacles. But this tabernacle is special in that the people raised almost all of the money themselves.
The tabernacle in Rexburg was built entirely by local donations. They did not ask for any help from church headquarters.
They raised the money themselves, over $30,000, which is a huge amount back in 1911. They built it themselves. This is Rexburg's building.
So the approval process for this building was simple. The architect submitted the plans and it was approved.
The groundbreaking started in May of 1911. They had all the building materials actually outside the plot ready. So when they did the groundbreaking, they could immediately start construction.
The process of building a tabernacle changes depending on when you're going to build it. So in the 1860s, a tabernacle might take 20 or 30 years. By the time you get to the 20th century, we have all of this new amazing technology, like railroads and steel and electricity. And so tabernacles take relatively a short amount of time. So this tabernacle in Rexburg, from groundbreaking to dedication, was about 8 or 9 months. It was really quick.
They finished the tabernacle in December of 1911, and then they dedicated it the first weekend in January, so January 7th of 1912. In the construction of the tabernacle, they used stone that was cut from a quarry that was out in the Archer Sundell area, which is about 15 miles from here. They would bring it over with a wagon with horses, and they would sculpt the rock once it got here.
When Ricks College decided to take down the Sporey building because the rock was crumbling, engineers that checked it out and said it was going to fall apart came down and checked out this rock and said it's good for another 100 years.
The community really pulled together, and among those people who helped do that was Robert Blazer, who is a Swiss immigrant. He helped build this building and many of the other buildings in Rexburg, and among those was just not the tabernacle, but also the courthouse and the Sporey building. Another Rexburg resident to help build the building was Christian Piper. He came here from Germany, and he was a stonemason who helped build the tabernacle. Once construction was completed here, he played a key role in the development and beautification of the tabernacle grounds. And he got other people involved and excited about beautifying this place. The tabernacle did have another building that was just like it, so kind of like its twin, and it no longer stands.
The church built about 120 tabernacles. There's not a lot of them left. Of the about 20 that are still standing, only about a dozen, about 12, are owned by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This tabernacle gives identity to Rexburg. And what's so interesting about this building then, it was designed by an architect named Otto Erlandsson, who was Swedish and lived in Payson, but designed a building in Idaho in an Italian and Spanish style. The architecture world changed dramatically in the early 20th century. You now have what we call a revival tradition. People are going to Europe in numbers that hadn't been seen before, and they're seeing 1,000 years of architectural history and the differences between countries. So you have these newly trained architects coming back to the United States and picking the bits they liked. And so you get this return to old styles, but mixed together in new ways. This tabernacle in Rexburg is really picking up on those ideas. Access to world design, access to new technology, and a mixing of styles. They had no problem mixing Italian architecture from the 17th century with Spanish architecture from the 15th. They thought it looked cool and trendy, but yet traditional.
The tabernacle was added to the National Register of Historic Places in 1972 because the Historical Society wanted to make sure that the building was always protected.
What I think is really wonderful about many of these tabernacles is that they're built in the center of town. They're not built on the edge of town where you have to drive 20 minutes to get to it. It's in the center of town. So you can come to your meeting here and then you can walk across the street and have a business and all of those things. So it's really focusing community. The function of a tabernacle today, I don't think has changed much. There's still places of community. There's still places of gathering.
The tabernacle has always been a gathering place. That is, its purpose was to be a place to gather the people together. They had concerts here. They've had political speakers.
Well, during the political season, of course, a lot of the candidates came. From time to time, the governor or one of the state officials would come over because he had an announcement or was politicking or just wanted to visit the community. And then on 4th of July and 24th of July, there were pioneer celebrations and flag raisings on the steps. So it was used quite often.
I know for years, the Messiah was performed here every year as a sing-along. The pieces that kind of bring again that sense of community that pull us together. I think that's why a lot of people have such a fond place in their heart for the building, because I bring my talent, somebody else brings theirs, and it's usually been in community service. That makes memories. The people who play in the orchestra, none of them are paid. They make memories. They come because they love music and they want to share their talents with the community. And this environment gives us a place to do that.
The organ was installed in the tabernacle around 1928, and with that addition, it brought in the dimension of music as a permanent fixture to the building and the space, and it expanded its value as a performance venue. The organ is an Austin organ and is one of the only functioning organs of its kind left in the country. Many musicians have practiced and performed here at the tabernacle. Among them was Ruth Barris, who is a nationally renowned organist, who later actually taught hundreds of Rexburg residents and other people how to play the organ here at the tabernacle. This led to generations of others learning how to play the organ and to inspire a love of music throughout Southeast Idaho. On June 5th, 1976, the Teton Dam burst and it sent 80 billion gallons of water into the surrounding areas. As it came into this building, it slammed against it, but all the water that would have went into it went into the basement.
The whole basement was flooded. You can see the line down there on the stairs that shows how high the water was, because the water was above the ceiling of the basement.
But because of that, the church was thinking about tearing down the building because it was still going to be a lot to repair it. But the city stepped in and they saved the building, and they were able to purchase the building through a grant, and so now it's owned by the city. To me, the tabernacle is a symbol of resilience and perseverance.
I think this tabernacle is still here at Rexburg because of what it means to this place. That people living 110 years ago donated, saved up their pennies, to build this building.
It's seen so much. It's seen world wars, it's seen a flood, it's seen development around it, but it has stayed standing and it has been a solid part of this community. Nobody in Rexburg can remember the building not being here.
They aren't just old buildings built by ancestors.
We hope that people will see the significance, feel that connection, and want to keep the building here forever.
That tabernacles are, for me, a real living witness of the power of place and the power of connection.
Nice. Very nice. Thank you, Mr. Bigler, for your help on that. That's very well done. Appreciate that. And Jed, thank you.
Thank you. I just want to give Bryson just 1 minute. If you could share, so he's seen this through for the last year. We were recording it in every season. And just tonight he was sharing about how the tabernacle has changed his own understanding of it. You wanted to share this for everyone there? Sure. Thank you.
Yeah, so today, before we came here, because I've been on this project since, when was it? I think a year ago, exactly. I've been put on this project. And before coming here tonight and presenting the final piece, which we put the final touches on today, which there are still a couple more that need to be done, but we stopped by the tabernacle to look at it in person, because it's been a while. I've been shoved away in my edit bay, making sure that it looked all good as a video. But looking up at the building, it just kind of changed my perspective of what the building stands for and what it is. And I think that's what we wanted to accomplish, and I think we did in this process of directing and developing this documentary, is informing on what it is and what it stands for. And it's funny because you stand underneath the tabernacle and it just seems 10 feet taller with the context of this documentary. So it was a blast to be able to work on this project for the past year, and I feel like I've grown closer to Rexburg because of it. So I'm thankful for the experience.
Great. Well, thank you. We appreciate your work. Very well done. Let's give him a round of applause. All right. Well, thank you very much. We will move on to item number 4, which is our public comment time. This is a time for items that are not on the agenda, and we would ask anyone who is here to make a comment to come to the microphone, state your name and address, and let us know what you like to do. Is there anyone that would like to say something? Mr. Taylor, I'm looking at you. Yeah, come on, just right there is fine.
Good evening, Councilman, Mayor, members of the city management crew. I've worked with most of you, all of you, maybe. Eric, there's one reason why a person goes on a mission with his wife. That's to get out of all the jobs that you've acquired over the years of living in a community like this. Then you come home from France, and what do? Run for city council? There's a psychologist I'd like to introduce you to. I appreciate those of you who are willing to serve on the city council. You know, there's those who accept responsibility for building things and making decisions, and then there's those who complain about those who do. And that's just life. And it's usually about a 85-15 ratio. Most people say 80-20. I don't know if it makes that high or not. Just quickly, I'm not on the agenda today, but I'd like to be on the agenda next week. So if I could request an opportunity or next month to address the city council, I'll come with a few more defined details. But the city of Rexburg's been very good to me and my family, and it's allowed us a lot of opportunities to not only participate in business here in the Upper Valley, but throughout the Intermountain West. We've been involved in quite a few different automobile opportunities and other business ventures that are ongoing, and some that have been bought and sold, and it's all due to the blessing of being able to do business here in Rexburg, to be right honest with you. Most of you probably know why I'm here today. We have recently submitted a plan to the city for another operation that we're going to put up that we think will be complementary to what we're doing now. It's a franchise model, and about the same time we did it, others did the same. But it's if you don't have a clean car in Rexburg in another year, you have no excuse. There's going to be plenty of opportunity for you to do that. We've franchised for the Tommy's Express full tunnel car wash system. It's been a lot more involved than I thought it would be, getting the designs, and we decided to go with the franchise because I needed a boss in the car wash business. I needed someone to keep the hammer down on me, and not just get comfortable with it, but inspect what they expect. We applied for a building permit. It's not complete yet. There's a few items that electrical and plumbing that still need to be fine-tuned. But when we got the estimate, and I'd heard that there'd be some higher numbers for a water and sewer permit doing business in Rexburg than what most places have found. But I just want to, as we began this process and we met with the city leaders on one side of the table and then the economic development people on the other side of the table, I says, now it's your job to get people to come to town to do business, and it's your job on this side to keep them from doing it. And I was being a little bit silly about it, but it kind of happens. And I've heard this over the years, but I've experienced it firsthand. I just like to have the city council consider some options as we go forward so that we don't block opportunity from coming to our town. In terms of, most new businesses are just that. They're new. And one thing that a new business lacks is capital. We're able to overcome this, but had I known what the extent of permit fees for access to the sewer and the water system were going to be, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have started this project. And I'd let someone else do it, or maybe it wouldn't happen there. And there's going to be other people that do it. And some of these other folks have already paid those fees, and I have too. But I just want to tell you that it's a barrier to coming to Rexburg and wanting to do business here. And as I've done quite a lot of calling and talking to both my franchisor, who has done this nearly 200 times in the United States, they were frankly blown away with what they saw. When I asked them what they thought that, based off of the usages and the flows would be, what they thought the fees would be for this, they're coming in about 1/7 on the high side as an estimate of what we got. And I don't know about you, but it's just a car wash. And when you get an estimate, when you go to pay a bill that's $350,000+ to get a permit, it hurts. It slows people down, and there's people that just will turn tail and go. And I've heard the economic development team talk about businesses that want to relocate here. Oh, we've got a big deal coming. It's on its way. It's going to happen. And then crickets. It doesn't materialize. We've tried to address some of that stuff. I've been involved in several aspects of our community. Been on the school board. I've chaired the airport board for quite a while. Been part of civic clubs that we've enjoyed. Different things that have gone on. We've tried to be good members of our community, but at this point in time, I think we need to reevaluate what we've inherited, partly, I believe, because we have such a large part of our community that doesn't pay any tax. And so how do you structure so that they are willing to play ball but pay their fair share? And do you structure it the same for non-tax paying entities as you do for tax paying entities? Is there a little give and take that needs to go along in there so that we don't scare private enterprise from locating to this valley? I've been a pilot for 35 years, and I've been landing here at day and then the day, but you really see it at night. And over the last 35 years, the valley is filling up. There's a lot of development that's gone on, but there's a void that's kind of happened in Rexburg in terms of the kind of growth that we'll be able to retain our kids and our grandkids so that they can live in this valley and make a living. A lot of them go elsewhere, and a lot of them return eventually. But a lot of them don't make a real economic impact in this valley because they can't. And I just think we need to open up our take that 5,000, that 10,000 foot view of the valley and say, what can we do next? What are successful communities like? And I won't say Logan, but I'll say North Logan or Layton, or these towns that are really growing and doing well. St. George, they've got a weather thing on their side, but so do we. Some people come because they like our weather and our opportunities, and I think we need to capitalize on that. So that's been more than 3 minutes, but I would just like to have you put me on the agenda. I'll get the numbers that we can talk about in a little more depth when we come back. I have a good friend who's been very successful here and in other parts of the country, and I asked him one day, I says, boy, you've done a tremendous job. You've built quite an empire for yourself, and you've employed a lot of people. And he says, well, it's all about people, he says. You've got to have good people to work with, and you've got to have a good attorney, and you've got to have a good accountant, and you've got to have a good tax attorney. And you ask those three, when you made a decision, what you think you ought to do. And whatever they say, you do just the opposite. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Mr. Taylor. We appreciate that. And I'm assuming that for your next presentation, you're going to have a bunch of different ideas and examples and things like that.
Well, yeah, as much as I can.
Okay.
And if I can have some access to some information from the city.
Yeah, we'd be happy to work with you on that. So whatever we can do to help out with the information and things that we need to do to look at it more seriously. So, okay.
I'm not even looking for a rebate. I'm just looking for what are we going to do going forward?
Yeah.
Because it just darn near stopped me.
Yeah.
And I've been doing this for 40 years. Someone comes to town, they've only been doing it for 3 or 4, they've got a great idea, but not a lot of backing. It's kind of game over.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. We appreciate that. Okay, let's move on to item number 5. Well, wait a minute. Is there anyone else that had any public comments? It's open for anybody. Anyone here? Anyone online? No? All right. We will now move on to item number 5, which is our committee assignment reports. And let's just go ahead and why don't we just start down the line, and we'll just go down the line, and if you've got anything to report, do, and if you don't, let us know.
Nothing to report at this time.
On yours, okay. Councilmember Eric Erickson?
Not much to report. We'll hear about some of the things from Parks and Rec, but later in the.
Okay. All right.
To report.
Thank you.
I have nothing new, Mayor.
Okay. All right. Councilmember Walker.
Mayor's Youth Advisory Board is doing a fun thing. They're doing a thing called Rexburg Government 101.
Oh, yeah.
And they met last week, and we talked to them about city government. And tomorrow afternoon, they're going to meet and do mock city council meetings. And they'll have the mayor, and they'll have city council, and they can vote. They can talk about anything they want, anywhere from buying ice cream for everybody at the high school to parking to the death penalty, whatever they want to talk about. And then they can pass stuff, and it's a good learning opportunity for them to learn how city government works. So I mean, that's tomorrow. Anybody's welcome to come watch it. It's really kind of entertaining.
Yeah, it is interesting.
4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Johnson.
Just a couple things from beautification. On Saturday, April 27th, there's going to be a roadside cleanup. It's from 8 to 11 a.m. for anyone who wants to help with that. The city kind of helps some residents that have organized that.
That's April 27th, right? Did you say? Yeah. Yeah, I think they're billing that as like the worldwide cleanup kind of
Yeah.
a thing, right?
Yeah.
Trying to get it all up and down the valley to clean up Highway 20 and other places all on the same day.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And so you just meet by the hotels that are by Wendy's on Yellowstone. And it's from 8 to 11. And then this one's a ways away, but anyone who wants to mark their calendar, on Monday, May 13th, we're going to have our Eagle Park cleanup that we have every spring. That will be from 5 to 7 p.m. So.
Monday, May 13th. Okay. If I can tag on to that, I was over to the dog park today and the skate park there, looking at some, we need to do some stuff there at the dog park to make it so it's not so muddy and things. And I was over there with Greg talking about it. And then I started talking to some people that were skating, and I asked them if they'd be willing to help us out with a cleanup project just to clean up some of the trash and stuff that's accumulated. And so I met a young man and his girlfriend, and they're going to try to organize a cleanup project for us on Saturday, May the 30th, at noon. So if you can kind of just spread the word for that too, and maybe even if a couple of you could show up and just help them a little bit. I think it'll only take you a half hour or so if we get a good crowd. And but they were really fun to talk to and willing to help out. In fact, the girl said that she had a college class that she needed to do a service project for, so that would help her too. So it worked out to be a good deal. But I will actually, unfortunately, I'll be gone that day. That'll be the day I'm leaving on vacation, so I won't be able to be there. But if we could have a couple people show up there to that would be really good, just to kind of help cheer them on a little bit, that kind of thing. So that's Saturday the 30th at noon over at the skate park. And I think I'll try to have somebody from the Parks Department there to help with have some garbage cans there and stuff too. So, okay. Anyway, Councilmember Colin Erickson.
The airport board and the golf board both canceled the meetings for this month. They said they would meet next month, and the school board is meeting tomorrow night, so I don't have nothing to bring up this time.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Okay, then let's move on to other reports. One thing I would like to report on, and that is that we received a grant. What was that grant called, Keith? The $2 million one? Reconnecting Communities. That's right. Yeah, we were able to. We were successful in our application for the Reconnecting Communities grant. It's a $2 million grant, and we're gonna use that to do exactly that, reconnecting the communities that Highway 20 divided years ago. And so we're going to be able to start the design work and the studies, of course, you always have to do, and the design work to get the overpasses over Highway 20 that we need. So that's kind of exciting news, actually, and all part of our transportation plan that we're trying to get in place and get moving on. So it'll still be a ways, right, Colin? It'll still be a ways coming, but at least we're moving on it now. So that's always a good start.
We're working at the speed of government.
Yeah, that's right. That's the way it goes. You get a grant, and 7 years later, sometimes you get the actual thing done. But okay. All right, we will move on to our staff reports. First one is our finance report with our CFO, Mr. Matt Nielsen.
All right, good evening. Okay, I'll just hit these two reports. This first one is just the cash and investments currently. Obviously, we haven't spent a ton on capital the last few months, but that will start to ramp up. But right now, we're sitting at about 48 million in cash and investments, and you can see where they're at. Approximately 80% of it's with the duration under 2 years. We are kind of changing our strategy a little, trying to get our ladder to be closer to the 2 to 3 year mark, meaning that when we reinvest, instead of doing just like 12 to 18 months, we'll look at even 2 and 3 year terms. So, but we always watch that and just kind of match it to our capital improvement plan for cash flow purposes as well. So any questions on that report before I jump into the other?
Any questions for Matt?
Okay, let me jump on that other one then. So this one, the last few months, you haven't really seen the right two columns as we've tried to close out our audit. And then we'll be doing that. I can't remember if that's not this next one, but the next Friday, I think we decided it was 29th, yeah. But with that said, as you look at this report, it just kind of gives a breakout of the 5 categories of expense that we kind of look at, and then the total expense, it compares it to the budget. So here we are through February on this report. That's about 41% of the fiscal year. We've spent about 23%. And then you can see each respective fund, what the fund balance is and the cash and investments. And so, you know, as I went through that, there was a couple things, you know, there's about 5 different funds for streets that have reserves. And so Keith and I have been talking, we've really tried to ramp up the construction projects over the next few years because we've got a pretty healthy reserve there. And then as you go through, a couple things to note when you talk about fund balance versus cash and investments. In governmental accounting, when you look at fund balance in business type funds, so like sanitation, water, wastewater, you have to include the assets. And so for example, when you look at like sanitation, you might look at that and be like, wow, we have $3.1 million. That includes the assets. We actually have $1.8 million in cash and investments. But in the other funds, as you look at that, you'll see kind of the thing to watch for is maybe if there's a negative number. Emergency services, sometimes that happens just because the city ends up cash flowing that until the other 2 entities get us paid back. But anyways, I'm not going to go through any more unless you guys have specific questions on any funds or on this report.
Any questions on that one? On that report from anyone? Okay, thank you.
All right, so I think the next item was pickleball, right? So let's pull the survey up first. You know, the survey was pretty simple, which apparently is a pretty good thing because you get more responses if you make it fewer questions. At least that seems to be the case. But what we did is we asked the respondents if they played pickleball. We actually had a lot of respondents, but of the respondents, 185 said, yeah, we play pickleball. And then we went in and we said, well, here's 2 options. Would you rather have us build 4 indoor courts that are covered with something, right? A building or what we talked about last time, the fabric type buildings. Or we said, would you rather build 8 outdoor courts? So of those respondents, 100 said indoor, 85 said 8 outdoor. And so, or 4 indoor, I should say, on the one. And then, I don't have it on this survey, they gave me this information later today, but we did ask them, we said, well, if we were to do an indoor facility and we had some type of a membership where you could get in, what would you be willing to pay? And to be honest, it was all over the place. It was we kind of looked at the average. The average monthly was close to $12, but you had a lot of people who are like $0. You had some people say up to $100. It was a pretty big range. But that was a pretty tough question because there wasn't a lot of context, because some of them were like, well, how often can I get in? And, you know, we haven't really established that part of it. We would do that down the road. And then we also asked, what would you be willing to pay for just like a one-time entry fee? And that average was anywhere really between $2 and $4, kind of roughly in that ballpark. So with that said, any questions on the survey before we look at the drawing? Yes.
Matt, you mentioned that there were quite a few other responses to the survey that did not indicate that they played pickleball.
Yeah.
They're all taxpayers, so I just wonder what their responses looked like.
The way they did the survey is they said, did you play pickleball, yes or no? And if you said yes, you got the other questions. If you said no, that was the end of the survey.
Oh,
Okay, so,
Yeah.
oh,
Like to see.
or what activities? Yeah, and I don't know that answer, sorry, I didn't get.
It was all over the board, just, you know, I mean, just like everybody's got different interests, so.
So it was like almost 1,200.
1,200 total respondents.
And
Only
it was all over the
185
board,
played pickleball.
That's what they said.
answers to, like, you know, I'd rather have you spend it on this, or why you're even spending money on that, you know, I mean, it was all over the board.
Yeah. Yeah, which, to be honest, for one of our surveys, that's pretty successful. I mean, I did a much larger finance survey over like a whole 3-4 months, and we got like 80 people. So, kind of gives you some context.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me pull up, any other questions on that before I pull up the drawing? Okay, so with the recommendation from staff, we're gonna show you this layout. So we have 370,000 in the current year budget, so keep that in mind. And then, oh shoot, where's the little plus, Deborah? Yeah, you guys will probably have to look on
Hey, Keith,
to see much.
could you close that door a little bit?
Or just close it enough so that it cuts the sunlight a little bit.
I'm getting blinded by the light.
So this is what our thought is in terms of getting this out to bid. Is the thought is to put it in this location. So this is over by Donjo Sports Complex. Here's the tennis court. Here's the field here. And then what we would do is we would look at the building the court at 64 in length. So pickleball, just to give you context, is 44 long, 20 wide. And then you got to have some room, you know, behind the lines for people to move around and play. And this drawing gives us 8 feet on the edges. And so there's like the fence, 8 feet, then the court starts 20 feet, then another 8 feet. So that kind of tells you how big it is. And then the idea would be to do a post-tension concrete where you can see this blue and green area. And then one of the things we would have to do is sleeve wherever there would be a fence. So if this is going to be an outdoor court, we've got to have sleeves because you don't want to be coming in and drilling holes after this is poured. And then the other thing that we would do is you can kind of see this gray barrier, gray line that goes around it and borders it. The idea there is we would just do that with regular concrete, and then if it was decided at some point to put a cover over it, then we would be able to anchor it to this bordered concrete area instead of the post-tension. And then the other thing is you could also put a fence up there. So our thought is to bid it out, so for the 4 post-tension concrete courts, and then we would do an ad for lighting, and then we would do a second ad option for fencing. And then we could get those bids back. You guys could see those bids. That would give us a little more time to kind of see if we want to consider covering it. And if we decide not to, then we just move forward. We finish it outdoor looking like that.
Matt, would the covered courts require fencing inside the covering?
No.
No. You could do these ones in the middle if you wanted to, or you could also do netting, either way. Because you would want to have some separation between the courts.
Okay.
But that's why we're doing this bid alternate, because as we get deeper into this, if we decide that we have the budget in the fall to cover it, then we will not do the lighting and we will not do the fencing.
Yeah.
Is that a project that could be completed for next winter?
The covering of it?
Yeah.
Depends on if you do a building or a fabric tension cover, I would say. But yes, I think you could. The fabric one for sure. If you're doing an actual building, it might be a little longer than that.
The fabric is the one that
we looked at. Yes.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah, and we've talked to them, and there's a couple options. You know, the one we've looked at is, I've got it right here, it's 66 by 164 feet. To be honest, the 66 works. The only thing is like if somebody was playing in the back court and somebody entered, say the door's in the middle, that some people might have to pass behind those people playing. And so there might have to be some rule that says, you know, don't interrupt the game, just because it is slightly tight. But to go up to the next option, at least with this company, it takes you to a 96 foot. And they said, well, we can build it any size you want between 66 and 96, but you pay for the 96 as far as the materials go. So anyways, we got some options to consider.
Yes, go ahead.
So you're saying, I just want to make sure I'm understanding. So this summer, we're for sure going to have, the goal is to for sure have these.
Yeah,
And then
so-
we're going to later decide whether to cover it or not.
Depends on how you vote.
Yeah, and so we're asking you tonight, this is an action item, we're asking you if you're good with this plan to put it out to bid.
That's what our decision is tonight, so. Any other questions or comments
Matt,
about this?
when you come with that, the fencing and also the lighting, will you come with the building bid too, so we have that to balance?
Yeah, we can, and I have that as well. I mean, you're gonna be pushing 400,000 to cover that thing with a tension fabric. It's kind of where we're
It'd
at
be just
on
nice to weigh all them as we come to that point.
Yeah.
And do you think there's going to be any significant difference if we were to cover it initially? I mean, you know what I mean? Is there a difference in cost to cover it initially or to build it like this and then later come back and cover it?
So there would be some pretty significant savings in not having to do the lighting and then not having to do that outside fence. And
Yeah, but I think what he's saying is, would it cost less to cover it now when we're building it? And I don't think so.
Oh,
'cause
no, I
they're
don't think it
separate.
matters.
They're separate companies.
Oh, they're separate, okay.
Yeah. At least this company, right? And we would have to put that out to bid. I mean, this company may not be the low qualified bid. They may find it's cheaper from someone else. And so anyways, yeah.
Okay, is there any other, yes, go ahead.
I know we're not talking about the covering all the way tonight, but I just think if we covered it, I don't have a problem covering it if we had the budget and that was what we decided, but I think trying to charge money for it just adds a whole new layer of cost and trouble. So if we did cover it, I think it would be easier to not charge the money. I think that would be pretty hard. Then you have to have someone to manage it, or you have to have camera equipment or whatever you're gonna do and pass out the fobs and all these things. So it's really involved to charge money if we cover it. So that's just my thought.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. We've talked about that, and I think that's something we'd have to really look at both sides and see if it's worth it or not, yeah.
Yeah, I will say, whether you charge or not, you know, there's definitely gonna have to be some involvement, just to control what, you know, the access that people have to it, but you're right, there'll be an additional cost to manage all of those other aspects.
Matt, if we covered this, we could eliminate the lighting.
Yeah.
But remind me, how is this heated?
So with that one, it was just the infrared heaters that are over the baselines. And so this isn't gonna be, you know, as nice as a totally insulated building, but it's, you know, it's enough that people could really play most, if not all of the year.
Yeah, typically, if you're playing pickleball, you don't want it to be too warm. So as long as you've got a little bit of a heat source, you know, that kind of takes the chill off, then I think it'll work. And I know those infrared heaters, they don't heat up all the air. I think, isn't that what you have in your shop out there, Dave? Those infrared heaters?
Not anymore.
Oh, not anymore? No. Anyway, you would have to look at whatever the most cost-effective heat source is.
And you could go to a forced air if you decided to do that at some point as well. I mean, that is an option. It's just an added cost you'd have to consider.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I like the proposal to put this out to bid with the idea that it will be constructed to the point that we could cover it if we decide to do that. But this gets us 4 more courts sooner than later, with the option of if budget comes around, then we go forward with the covering. So we're not really debating the covering tonight. We're just debating whether to put this out for bid as it sits.
Right, which gives us that option.
Gives us that option in the future. I personally like that approach. I think that's a great approach.
Well, unless there's any other questions or discussion, do you want to make a motion to that?
I would make the motion that we that we take the recommendation of Matt to put out to bid the 4 courts as they have designed and shown to us this evening. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Is there a second to that motion? Second by Councilmember Colin Erickson. Any further discussion or questions before we vote? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Right, that motion passes. And thank you, we appreciate that information, and we'll move forward with getting some bids together and taking a look at what we've got there. All right, we'll move on to item number B, which is our Public Works report with our Public Works Director, Mr. Keith Davidson. Moving to
Thank
the
you, Mayor.
agenda, it's Ketty Davidson.
No, that's all right. So what we have is we're wanting to surplus. So about, I think it was 12 years ago, we bought a cardboard baler for BYU when we were doing the recycling program. And so we're wanting to surplus that baler now. I guess my understanding is you can no longer get parts for that baler. And BYU Idaho is no longer doing community recycling. They're only doing recycling on campus. And so all the recycling that we used to do has gone away, other than we're still recycling with Western, our 90-gallon containers for the residents.
Okay, so the baler that we're surplusing is just an old one that we have?
No, it's an old one that's up.
Oh, it's the one on campus, but it's the old one that they can't get parts for.
Yeah, that's my understanding, is that you can't get parts for it anymore.
Okay.
We're looking just to get it off our books and just surplus it.
Okay, all right. Any further questions on this item? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to go ahead with this surplusing.
I'll make a motion that we surplus the cardboard baler.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second to that motion?
I second.
Second by Council President Walker. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion passes. We will go ahead with that.
Okay, and then the other thing is we're going to be setting our spring cleanup dates. We're going to do it for April 15th to May 2nd. So it's similar to what we did last year. Last year, I think we were April 11th to May 2nd.
April 15th to May 2nd. All right, we will put that out in our newsletter. Is there any comments or questions or anything about that? Okay, all right.
I got one question. Do they
Yes.
they'll pick the trash, they'll pick that stuff up the day that they pick up your trash, right?
Generally, we try and go around that same time frame. There's some things that can come up, but generally speaking, we're going to May 6th, sorry, not May 2nd, it's May 6th. So yeah, generally that's how we try and run it, is when they're doing the trash as well. But
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. All right. Thank you, Keith. Appreciate your work there. Yes.
Keith, will you tell your street crew thank you so much for what they're doing? I've seen them out there numerous trying patching those potholes, just doing a lot of extras. Trying to just tell them thank you for being out there.
well,
this year.
thanks. Yeah, this year has been a lot nicer than last year.
Yeah. Yeah. That's not quite as bad. So that's good.
All right.
All right.
Thanks.
Any others? Anything else? Okay. Thank you. All right. The mayor's report. We've got a lot of stuff going on here, so I'll try to be quick. But item number A here is the Historical Preservation Commission appointment ratifications. And we have all of these folks who have agreed to serve on our Historical Preservation Commission, including Rick Robinson, Ronnie Noland, Jason Flora, Jamie Patton, Lisa Jones, and David Jones. I would like to entertain a motion to ratify these appointments to the Historical Preservation Committee. Is there such a motion?
Yeah, Mayor, I propose that we accept these nominations for the Historical Preservation Commission.
All right, thank you. Is there a second to that motion? Second by Councilmember Chambers. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. We will make that official, and we appreciate these folks for stepping up and being willing to help us on that. So Alicia, there you go. You've got your commission there. All right. Thank you. All right.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Excuse me. This is the commission that's, for the countywide thing? No. These are not the appointments to that?
This is for our historical preservation ordinance. So
Okay.
we can move towards doing all that. What we're talking about is for the Teton Dam flood commemoration.
Yeah.
So, but these are some of the same folks that I think we're going to fix.
Yeah, I was going to suggest, if that was not the case,
Yeah, so that's
we could
that's another committee.
encourage them to serve on that commission too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or I'll have a liaison at least for that.
Yeah.
And I did ask Rick Robinson to be the liaison from this committee to the Tabernacle Fundraising Committee, which actually was one of my items here that Greg Palmer, I don't know, many of you probably know Greg, he has actually agreed to be our Tabernacle Fundraising Committee chairman, and he's attempting to gather a bunch of folks together to be able to help with that effort as well. So yeah, Rick Robinson has agreed to be the liaison from that committee to the other committee. So some of them are doing a little bit of double duty, which is awesome. We appreciate them. Okay, yeah, just going through these items. Jed mentioned the Heritage Youth Symphony, which is going on right now. We had just a reminder, we have the LEPC, which is the Local Emergency Preparedness Committee. We have the tabletop exercise on April the 3rd. That's a Wednesday morning at 8:30 a.m. And it'll be fairly short, but I think it'll be really good to see. That's the tabletop exercise is kind of what our role is in the case of an emergency. If we had an earthquake or, whatever might happen, what would be our role, and that just is kind of a practice session for that. So if you can make that at 8:30, that'll be over here at the fire department. And they said they'll keep it to an hour or less because a lot of folks that are going to that also have another preparedness seminar thing that they're going to in Idaho Falls just a little later in the morning, so they'll have to keep it short. Okay, our Easter egg hunt is coming up on the 30th, and I'm happy to report that our Kiwanis Club has been successful in getting 47 bikes donated so far to that will be in the eggs for prizes for kids, and so that's really exciting. We appreciate our Kiwanis Club, and Matt has a lot to do with that, getting that organized, and Amanda at the front desk and Mariana have been helping with taking the bikes and contacting people that have donated in the past and doing a great job with that. So I mentioned the skate park, dog park service project cleanup Saturday, March 30th at noon. So anybody that can help out with that, that would be appreciated.
March 30th or May 30th?
What'd I say? March 30th. Yeah, March 30th. So that's
the
2
same
weeks.
day as the-
May 30th.
No, you said May 30th.
Oh, did I say May 30th? Sorry. Yeah, we wanted to do it fairly quick, so it's a week from this Saturday, so it'll be March 30th. Yeah, and it's honestly, it's not terrible. There's a bunch of trash that's blown up against the fence of the dog park and some weeds. So if we have if we have a big group, probably a half hour to an hour at the most. So that'll be good. Yeah, it's kind of the same day as Easter egg hunt, but later in the day. So. Okay, I would like to report that our Economic Development Department had their Big Idea competition here in the hatchery, just next door, at 2 weeks ago, Thursday the 7th, and we had 18 folks that came and presented ideas, and there were a lot of really interesting ideas, some really good ideas for new businesses, and the 3 winners were awarded $500 for first place, $300 for second place, and $100 for third place. And so that was kind of exciting to see all of the great new ideas that were coming from people for businesses to try to develop. So let's see. I don't know if you were aware, we had the chamber had a Restaurant Rush Week last week, and I had several of the restaurants that wanted me to come and do a FaceTime video or whatever videos they do to help promote their restaurant. And so we did about 4 of those, which was pretty fun duty because they fed me free lunch, which was really nice. And there was a lot of really good food there. So I gained a couple pounds, but I'm trying to lose them now. So several of us went on the INL tour. Let's see, Colin, you were there, and who else went? Let's see, who went on that? I'm trying to remember. Yeah, Eric. And don't you think that was pretty interesting?
That's very interesting.
Yeah, a lot of really cool stuff going on out there, and we're working with their public relations department to see if we can tag on to any of the different ideas. And there's some good ideas we thought for the Madison County Commission on their new landfill, some ideas that might be helpful and save them some money out there. So a lot of really cool things happening there. So I think it's just good to know what's going on and be able to tag on to some of those things if we can.
Mr. Mayor, on
yes.
that note, if anybody's interested, they're more than willing to take anybody on a tour.
Yeah.
All you gotta do is contact them down there.
In fact, we're going to be setting up a new one because as we headed out to the site on the desert, we ran into a pretty good snowstorm, and the 2 gals that were driving the van and our tour guide got a little nervous, so we weren't going to make it back. So they turned around and we came back. So we're actually going to schedule another tour to go out to the desert here in maybe just a few weeks when it's better weather. And so maybe we'll try to set that up for a time when, maybe we'll try to do it. Well, I don't know. I was going to say maybe we'll try to do it on a time when it's not during the day, so Councilmember Reese or some of those could go. But of course, that's when they're working. So we have to try to do it on one of your days off or something. But anyway, we had right here in this room just last Friday, we had a group called the Madison Interagency Council, kind of an organizational meeting. And I don't know how many of you know David Merrill. He's no relation. Well, he probably is a relation, but I don't know where. But he is organizing this interagency council, and we just provided the room and the welcome. But it's a organization of all of the nonprofits in the area that it's sort of a group where they can meet and talk with each other and try to refer people back and forth to the best place so that there's not duplication of efforts, and they can try to be as efficient as possible with trying to help people. And so I think that was really good, and that'll be something that they'll be meeting on a regular basis just to help out with that. And last night, in fact, Mike and I, Councilmember Walker, Council President Walker, and I attended it's called a community conversation. It was a group that talks about drug courts and drug involvement and how we can try to do a better job with prevention and keeping people from getting involved with drugs. And if they do, how we can be more efficient and more effective in helping them out of the cycle of drug use so that they're just not going to prison and becoming worse criminals, actually, is what happens a lot of times. So I think that's a good group that we can get involved in with this interagency council to coordinate a lot of things that way too. So Sheriff Ball and one of the Chief Deputy Quayle from Fremont County were there, and so it was really good for them all of the input that they gave. I thought was really good too. So we had a ribbon cutting out of the Beehive North Credit Union last Friday. We attended and made some remarks there, and glad to see that opening. I attended a cloud seeding board meeting yesterday. Just want to report that the cloud seeding program is going well. We contribute to it. We contribute a few $1,000s every year to that. And the science that they've got now has gotten a lot better on kind of measuring the efficiency or the efficacy of that, and they figure that about 6 to 10% more snow than what we normally would get as a result of the cloud seeding efforts. So that's, a lot of the power companies contribute to this, and the canal companies and stuff. Anybody who's interested in having more water and water available to us is involved in that, so that's a good thing. So All right, that's a lot of things we've been involved with for the last couple of weeks. It's been a busy time, and it doesn't look like it's really going to let up anytime soon, so there's a lot going on. All right, let's move on to the agenda to item number 8, unless anybody had any questions about all that stuff. Item number 8A is our city staff recommendation to approve the police department equipment lease purchase agreement. This would be designated as resolution number 2024-03 if the motion passes. So we have some folks here to present this to us, and I don't know who's going to take the lead on that. Matt, are you taking the lead on that? We've got some of our officers here with us.
Yeah, so Officer Scott Sean here, he gets to manage this, so he has all the fun with it.
All right.
But basically, let me kind of just tell you what it is. We started leasing police vehicles approximately 5 to 6 years ago, roughly. In fact, we're just starting to turn back in our first round of them this year. And we use a company called Bancorp now, but what we're running into is supply chain issues. Sometimes they just can't get the vehicles that we need. And so what this resolution does is gives us another option of another company that we could use. And I think that's good for a couple reasons. One, you can benchmark the two companies against each other to see, who's really offering a better deal, and then just availability. The other thing that I will mention, so we met just a couple days ago because we're looking at capital improvement plans. The face of leasing versus buying a vehicle, it's changed a lot in the last 5 years. And as you know, purchasing vehicles is also a lot more expensive. But as we reanalyze that, my personal opinion is it's probably a little more expensive to lease these vehicles than just go buy them outright and try to run them a longer period of time, maybe 7 or 8 years versus the 5 years that we're doing now. But as we look at the benefits of that, we feel like it's still beneficial, particularly for the patrol division. But as we start to look at vehicles going forward in admin, we're going to really start taking a hard look at whether we just go back to the purchasing model, actually buying the vehicle for admin versus the lease. And we'll try to do some cost comparisons of that. But to give you an idea, like if you were to go buy a pickup truck and then equip it with what we do on a patrol vehicle, I would suspect that you would be $60,000 to $65,000 pretty easily by the time you get that thing, what we call upfitted, with all the extras, which can be pretty costly. The good thing about when we do lease the vehicles, do you want to talk about like what percent you think we get of equipment out and we can kind of recycle? You want to talk about that aspect? Because that helps save us money as well.
Yeah, as long as we can, we've reused our radios, which are about $4,000 a piece out of the cars. Our video systems, which again is $4,000 to $7,000 a piece, and our radars, and that's about $2,000 to $3,000 depending upon which radars we get. So we reuse those.
I was going to ask, how many times can you reuse those before they're obsolete and you can't just once or twice maybe? Or?
My hope is to do it about twice, which would give us 10 to 12 years with that equipment.
Okay.
We're running into an issue right now because we kind of have a perfect storm of everything happening where WatchGuard got sold. So they're not replacing any of our equipment or rebuilding it. We actually are having to look at other options. And then our radios they're about 10 to 12 years old right now. And so we're having to start replacing all of our radios just so that they're working with the new network. Mm-hmm. They still function on the new network, but where the new radios are a little bit more compatible, they'll get downloads and different things that are our new radios. We actually have to go physically upgrade them with new software and different things like that every time they change the repeaters.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're hoping between 10 and 12 years, making sure that we're on a cycle that re-upfits our cars with new stuff.
Okay, thank you.
One thing I will say, I do think there is a lot to say about having the newer vehicles for the officers. I think it is a morale booster, if you will, versus older vehicles. I mean, we've had, our old model was, some of those vehicles were 12, 13 years old. And the resale's also been good. Obviously, the price of vehicles has jumped so much that what's happening is we return those vehicles, we're typically getting back money because anything over the identified residual that they give us when we sign a contract on one of those leases, anything over that, they write us a check, and we're getting those checks. And then the other thing that we're doing in-house is pickup trucks. When they come off of that lease, we're pretty much buying those for other departments. And so, for example, we've got one that we're going to hopefully sign on tomorrow. It's an F-250. It's got probably 40 to 50,000, if that, miles. It's a 2018, and we can buy that thing for 20 grand. And so we're going to do it, and we're going to take it to another department that has a budget for a used vehicle. And so there is some positives. So.
Okay, questions?
Matt,
Comments?
when you studied this out on, it came out a little bit more leasing, was that figuring in all the maintenance too? Because I
Yeah.
thought it was below.
Yeah, it was definitely figuring in the maintenance as well. Now, when we originally did it, I think we had a little savings. Like as we cycled through all the vehicles, we definitely showed a savings. But when you look at the price of the leases now versus 5 years ago, there's been a very substantial increase. And so when I reanalyzed it, I kind of feel like it's flipped just a little bit to where it's probably slightly more expensive on the lease side. But I mean, the problem, right, is when you're dealing with 40 vehicles that you're trying to rotate out on a 5-year cycle, that's pretty expensive when we come to you guys and say, hey, we need to buy 8 vehicles at $65,000 each, you know, versus leasing them and spending maybe 8 to 12, whatever it is, depending on the upgrade or the upfitting to that vehicle. And so there's a little bit of looking at just the cash flow and the ability to come up with that much capital as well, right?
Well, and I also know that by keeping newer vehicles, lease vehicles, when you start dealing with maintenance, back when I was there, and we had cars go down, soon you have 1, 2, 3 cars at the shop, can't get parts, you're going short very fast without vehicles. So come with the newer vehicles that can run, that be out there is very important.
Yeah, and the safety features is another big one. You know, as they come out with new safety features, it's nice to just know that they have those, because they're in situations that are, you know, potentially dangerous to get in an accident, right? And so they have to be really careful what they're doing. And so any safety features we can add is a benefit.
Yeah, it's good. All right, any further? Yes.
I just had a question. I can't remember now. I read through it really quickly, and I just remember wondering if the monthly mileage, is that enough mileage per car?
Yeah, it was at 12? Yeah, okay.
That's enough. Okay, I just
Yeah,
remember
it's-
thinking that we drive more than that, but a month, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Patrol, it might not be as good. Now, Bancorp, they haven't penalized us if we go over, because sometimes we're under, right? So they've really worked with us, and hopefully these guys will as well. That will be part of this process, right, of benchmarking the two companies together, is seeing the, you know, who has the better benefits. And so, I mean, I think it's just nicer when you can price multiple companies against one another, right? As you
It's
go
good
forward.
to have options, yeah.
And we also looked at enterprise. We did a pretty extensive look at that, but that one just wasn't as appealing as this company to us, and we just felt like this was a better direction to go with this one at this point.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Matt, so these companies work with municipalities.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's a tough lease to put together for a patrol vehicle.
Yeah, they specialize really with
Yeah.
patrol and
Well, then
police. Or police, I should say, but that's kind of their specialty.
And you say you are getting checks back on the residuals. Sounds
Yeah.
like, so their estimates are pretty good on the mileage and.
Yeah,
on
they've
other
been
things.
pretty good. We've only got a couple back because we've only had returned a few, and they've actually sold a few. But like we had a couple Durangos that went back. I got $2,000 each one, and you know, to be honest, when we were selling our own vehicles before, when they were 8 to 12 years old, we were getting basically nothing. Like it was ridiculous.
So,
Yeah.
so compared to what we had a few years ago, this has been a major improvement compared to keeping those vehicles for the life of them, because when they're out in their patrol running all the time, they are wore out 12 years completely. So this is a
You want to know
huge-
if you're going to chase somebody
Yeah.
that the car's going to
Sometimes you go out there and you didn't know if it's gonna start or not. So changing this to a lease has been a huge thing to keep our officers in better equipment and to be able to have them running out there all the time. So it's been a good thing when we changed over to the lease compared to purchasing, I thought, when I was there.
And we're very selective about what vehicles we buy back. Like, we probably won't buy back a patrol SUV. I mean, those things they're running idle a lot.
Yeah.
They have a lot of hours. May not have a lot of miles, they got a lot of hours.
Yeah. All right, well, unless there's any other comments, I would entertain a motion to move forward with this resolution.
Mayor, I'll make that motion to move forward with this resolution.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Councilmember Eric Erickson. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion passes. We will go ahead with that item. All right, item B is the staff recommendation to approve a public-private partnership contract for a community ice rink. Mr. Zollinger, do you want to address that?
We met with the renters this morning, and we are still finalizing details on a contract that would be executable. There were a few issues that slowed us down, insurance being one of them. We have worked through that, we believe, and we're simply waiting for the renters. It'll be one or two pass back and forths to get everybody smiling.
And actually, we have a meeting scheduled with them Tuesday.
Yeah, and they intend to bring their architect and show us the final drawing of what they hope to put on this leased property. And we'll have a lot more information, but we are not ready to ask you to approve a contract tonight. It'll probably be your next meeting.
Okay, so we will table that item until next meeting. Well, I don't know.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask?
Yeah.
How's it looking?
It's got walls.
No.
Oh.
How's the process coming along? Does it look like there's
It
some
appears that we will
possibility?
be able to reach, we had reached tentative understanding. The document that you were given 2 weeks ago spelled out the terms that we had all felt like we could live with. It's now letting the lawyers turn them into documents
Mush.
that will survive my disappearance and probably Mr. Reniker. He feels like he won't be here. It'll be his son or a third party that finalizes this agreement. So we want it in terms that everybody understands, not just the 9 of us.
Make sure all of the dots are, or whatever you call it, the i's are dotted.
And
T's.
that's what Mr. Rammel was trying to convey, but he
Yeah.
admits that it was not as artfully conveyed as it maybe could have been.
And they're being patient with us?
They are, yeah. Keith and I met with Jason Reniker this morning, visited, and we're waiting for his next iteration of concerns, and then we'll address those as they come through.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, at first they were kind of frustrated, but I think they realized that, the agreement needs to be done right, and not just jumped into. So yeah, we'll bring that back to you next time after we work through it a little bit more, so.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay, item number 9A, well, we have no second readings, we have no third readings on the calendar. So the last item is our consent calendar, which is the minutes from the March 6, 2024 meeting and the approval of paying the City of Rexburg bills. Is there any questions or comments on these items before we move forward? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Mr. Mayor, I so move.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Johnson. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we will go ahead with that item and pay the bills. And if there is nothing else to come before us, President Walker, yeah.
Mr. Mayor, we need to have, again, anybody, well, our drive around is on the 10th of April. If anybody has any items they want to cover. We've had a few, I've got a few already.
I was gonna say, do you want to kind of list those off so everybody knows what they are? And I know it was a visit.
I sent out a draft of that.
Yeah, she sent a draft.
Oh, you did? Okay, well, that's fine then. Yeah, take a look at that, and then if you've got any other items that you want to suggest that we take a look at, then please send those to.
We need to have the agenda finalized by the 3rd. So if I could find out by the 1st, everybody's.
Mike, as we drive around, just let's hit the university, I mean, we're probably gonna be past that anyway, just hit those new crossings as we drive through them.
Oh, okay.
Main Street and.
And where we're gonna put in the new stoplight and stuff like that.
Okay,
Just
we
so
can do
we
that.
can, as we drive around, we'll probably go through them anyway, but
Yeah,
it'll probably be on there.
okay. All right, anything else? If nothing else, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much. Thank you all for being here. Appreciate your presence here.
Well.